Season 3 of Better Call Saul starts in April. Let's take a moment to prepare for the season premiere. We'll go over the 2 cliffhangers they left us with in Season 2, and we're going to go over what you need to look out for in the premiere of Season 3. They have already announced that we're going to get our first look at Saul Goodman in Season 3, but I wouldn't hold your breath on it. I'm going with 2 possible scenarios here. One, we're going to see Saul Goodman, but it's just going to be for one specific instance that Jimmy decides to take on a different character, and he's going to go right back to being Jimmy. 2, if he does make the official change, if he completely goes over to being Saul in Season 3, it's going to be in the last episode for the season, and literally in the last minutes of the episode. We're not going to get a lot of Saul Goodman in Season 3. Now you may be thinking, but wait a minute, Jimmy was in trouble in Season 2. Chuck caught him red-handed on a federal offense, and he's going to have to do something or he'll end up in prison. This is not going to be the catalyst to change Jimmy into Saul. And we know this isn't going to be the catalyst because if Jimmy really gets in trouble for what he did with those court papers, it's going to be too much trouble for him just to change his name and keep walking around the same town. He would have to go far, far away. There's going to be warrants out for his arrest, posters with his picture on it. It's just going to be a situation that he's not going to get out of by simply changing his name. So Jimmy's going to get out of this deal with Chuck in some other way. He's not going to need to turn to changing his identity to get out of this trouble with Chuck. And there's something else that we can assume about Jimmy becoming Saul. And we're going to look at Breaking Bad to see what this is. In Breaking Bad, one thing that we never saw with Saul was him with a woman. In 5 seasons and a lot of appearances by Saul, he was not once with a woman. Saul definitely has a history of a broken heart. Now in Better Call Saul, we see that Jimmy truly loves Kim and is waiting for the opportunity to be able to be with her. In Season 2, we saw that he felt if he could just become a lawyer, the type of lawyer that would impress her, if he could get a job with a firm that would impress her, that would be how they ended up together. And we saw that he was met with disappointment. We're going to see this relationship between Kim and Jimmy come to an end. And Kim is going to hurt Jimmy quite badly. And this is what's going to push him to become Saul. Because the other thing about Kim is the one thing left in Jimmy's life that motivates him not to be a criminal. He wants to be a good man for her. But once he loses her, once he knows that there's no chance him and Kim will ever be together, Jimmy's not going to be able to resist the criminal life that he really wants to live. And this will be the catalyst that pushes Jimmy to becoming Saul. The other thing we saw at the end of Season 2 was a note left for Mike. And we see Mike quite nervous over the note that he's being watched. And it's mysterious to us as to who left the note. Now we know the note is not from Nacho, simply from the distance between Mike and Nacho while this whole thing went down. Mike is a really competent guy, and there's not too many people who manage to get a step ahead of Mike. But we do know one person that does have the ability to stay a step ahead of Mike, and that is Gus Fring. Now, we've actually had it confirmed through social media that Gus will be on Better Call Saul in Season 3, and I can assure you it is Gus who left the note on Mike's car. Let's get to what you need to look out for in the premiere of Season 3, because this is awesome what they have done with the beginnings of their season premieres. If you remember, Season 1 and 2 of Better Call Saul both begin in the same way. They begin with these somewhat black and white scenes. We see Saul in a different point of the timeline. We're watching Jimmy before Breaking Bad, before he becomes Saul and meets Walter White. But these opening scenes occur after he became Saul, after he met Walter White, after all of the events from Breaking Bad. There are 2 big things to look out for in these color drain scenes. The first thing I want to point out about these scenes is that these color drain scenes, these 2-3 minute scenes that we get at the beginning of every season, are showing the death of Saul Goodman. These short scenes in the beginning of each season are going to show us how Saul dies. But they also show us something else. These beginnings show us exactly what the entire season is going to be about. So, for example, in the first season, in the color drain scene, we see Saul working at the Cinnabon, and then he goes home, he sits in front of the TV, puts on one of his old commercials, and he longs to be a successful, powerful attorney like he used to be. He's watching his old commercials, wishing that's the life he was living. Then, through the entire first season, we see that Saul spends the whole season wishing he was a successful lawyer. It is what the entire season is about. He's tired of his job as a public defender, and he wants to be a successful lawyer, just like the color drain scene in the beginning of the season let us know. In the second season, we see Jimmy get trapped throwing out the garbage, and he has two doors that he has to choose from. One door he's going to have to wait for somebody to come through and open. The other door he can open, but it's against the law to open because it's going to set an alarm off. And we see Jimmy sit between these two doors trying to decide if he wants to wait and make a legal exit or if he just wants to take care of things right now and make an illegal exit. And then in season 2, we see that Saul spends the entire season deciding whether he should be an honest, upright lawyer or a lawyer who breaks some laws to get things done. It's pretty ingenious what they're doing with these color drain scenes. I don't think I've ever seen it in another television series. I love how they're both giving us the death of Saul, so we're going to have a real full picture of this character by the end of the series. And I also love how they're setting us up for the season, letting us know the main topic, the main challenge, internal challenge that Saul is going to be going through in that season. I just think it's a great way to welcome us into a new season. Better Call Saul has not disappointed. It is different than Breaking Bad, certainly is not intense as Breaking Bad, but it is just as good. It's very well written, well done, beautiful cinematography, and the characters are fantastic. If you have not checked out Better Call Saul, I highly suggest you do. Season 1 and 2 are now on Netflix, and you can catch up before Season 3 begins.